Welcome to the Blue Security Podcast, a weekly podcast for information security defenders, where we bring you discussions on best practices, tools, and implementation for enterprise security. Now, here are your hosts for today's show, Andy Jha and Adam Brewer.
Welcome to this week's episode of the Blue Security Podcast. I'm Andy, your host.
I'm Adam, your co-host.
We have a treat for you today. We are going to be talking with Ray Wolfram, who is from the Customer Experience Engineering team. She's the Senior Product Manager for Defender Experts, and we're going to learn all about Defender Experts and what it is. So, Ray, can you give our listeners a quick introduction on your background, maybe how you got into cybersecurity, and, just who you are?
Share a little bit about, absolutely. First of all, thank you so much for having me, Andy and Adam. I can for sure share that primer as to how to effectively socially engineer me. So let's get into it. And then you pronounce my name beautifully as well. Ray Wolfram, Senior Product Manager, sit right within engineering for Defender Experts. I've been in the tech space for around 15 years or so. I started in healthcare IT support desk, really actually for NYU School of Medicine. Before that, I was spending time getting my master's in public health in epidemiology. And at that time, almost gratefully, nobody knew what epidemiology was. They were like, why are you studying skin? And I was like, okay, this was the extremist. But it wasn't that. It was like essentially studying disease distribution. And again, at that time, that wasn't a very lucrative opportunity. It wasn't top of mind for anybody. So I decided research wasn't for me, but I really am so passionate about healthcare. I've always been a nerd, huge sci-fi fan, spent a lot of time by myself teaching myself how to do front-end coding. So I was like, this is a good fit. So I had the great privilege of working at help desk for School of Medicine, essentially. And then I grew my skill set. And then I developed my career moving to WebMD as a program manager there because I wanted to have a more global impact. And then there was an opportunity at MSK, a Memorial Sloan Kettering Cancer Center, that I just couldn't pass up. I mean, their mission was so close to my heart. So I joined that team as the IT manager for the collaboration and productivity tool set. And then COVID hit. And then during that time, I also got my MBA. So I have a master's in public health and epidemiology, an MBA. COVID hit. And here we needed to be able to support a hybrid workforce. We went all in on Microsoft. And so I have absolutely been on the other side of the equation as a Microsoft customer. I can understand the adventure that it can be. And at that time specifically, again, it was COVID. And I saw how tenacious all of my colleagues were. I worked so closely with info security, how dedicated and committed everyone was to the mission and being able to support a holistic ecosystem in a way that would also be able to drive the business, because our business was saving lives, right? So we had livelihoods, but lives on the line. And I thought I can and should be doing more. I wanted, again, to do something on a global scale. So I matriculated in another master's program for cyber operations, and I'm finishing up that program now next semester. And there is an opportunity at AWS as a program manager working on a global public-facing platform. And I decided to transition to a more cyber-focused role, and I couldn't pass that. It was Microsoft. I said I wanted to go to the mothership, because I know the power of the Microsoft ecosystem of, again, our holistic platforms. And I wanted to be inside where all of that magic was happening. And again, be able to leverage or harness my experience as a customer and be able to provide that much more of an effective and impactful experience for the customers I engage with today. So that's a little bit about me. And also I'm a tourist.
That is awesome. Both Andy and I also came from enterprise IT, and Ray, you and I share the common background of I also was in like personal productivity, that end user computing side of the house. And that's where I came from before I was recruited to Microsoft, and Andy similarly. So, and I think we all did a stint, it sounds like, on the service desk as well, which is a great place to round out your skills and kind of see all aspects of how all the puzzle pieces fit together. So a lot of commonalities in our background, which is awesome. I personally did not get the experience of building through COVID at Enterprise IT. Andy, you did, right?
Yeah.
But that had to be an incredible experience and so many learnings in such a short period of time as well on what you're capable of getting done when kind of all the shackles are off and it's just go build, go fix this, go make this happen. Had to be really exciting during a tough time, obviously, but still.
Yeah, right. So it's like, it was a thrill rush for sure. In many ways. And to your point, you're absolutely right. And that's something that it may sound controversial, but there was latitude and there was freedom in the way where how can we support critical operations in a secure manner, right? Without necessarily having to manage the bureaucratic red tape, which is often not just the regulatory, because we're still, obviously regulatory leads us, but sometimes there might be some more political navigation required. That all went away. So where previously InfoSec, maybe it was the Department of No or the sheriffs,
Dr. No.
On duty. Yes. No, people went, they received us with open arms and it was, please just tell us what to do. We will do anything. Right. And it puts so many things into perspective. I'm going to get emotional if I start, delving into it too much, but I've had 3 a.m. calls and it wasn't just my team, right? It was Microsoft as well. And on the other side, I understand like that's what we get paid to do, to stay on the call, because the level of engagement, Microsoft, it wasn't like Microsoft was falling asleep at the wheel either. So all like our customer success account managers, all of, fast track engineers, all the literal experts that are available within the organization here were engaged with us and holding our hand at each step of the way because they internalized the mission. And so it was just such an extraordinary, inspiring experience for me. Absolutely.
And, to be fair, and I apologize, if we lose sight of this now because it's almost a repressed memory, but obviously your experience in New York City was vastly different than Andy's experience in Madison, Wisconsin, or mine in Des Moines, Iowa, where the pandemic came later for us and it's not as harsh of a wave. So I know for New Yorkers in particular, that's an even more difficult thing you were processing while you were trying to build at the same time. And so just that stew of emotions had to be so powerful. So, and you're right, I was on the Microsoft side helping to build that as well. And my wife was 7 months pregnant. And so I actually went on parental leave in mid-May of 2020. So I missed kind of the tail end of it, but that initial rush in March and April, certainly I was there, all hands on deck helping customers, right? Like everything went out the window. It was just, you drop everything and help customers be successful. And so what a time to be alive, I guess, if nothing else to say. So that's an awesome background and certainly something Andy and I can really relate to.
Yeah. Adam, before we get into Defender experts, obviously Ray works for Microsoft, and our listeners, if they know, we also work for Microsoft. So if you want to give the quick disclaimer.
Sure. Yeah. So this show is not an official Microsoft show. Andy and I and Ray today, we do this on our own time. This is Sunday morning as we record it. We do this on our own dime as well. So Andy and I pay for all this out of our own pockets, our domains, our recording platform. It's a labor of love. So while this show is not affiliated with Microsoft, obviously all 3 of us like to stay in the good graces of our employer. And so just be aware that we always have to, it actually is a policy. We need to call out that although this is not like sponsored content by Microsoft, we are employed by them. So when we do anything on social media, we're supposed to say that, and you have now been warned. So with that, on with the show.
Informed.
All right. So Defender experts, let's talk about that. From a high level, I know there are 2 flavors of Defender experts. And really, like, think about our listeners. Maybe they've never even heard of what Defender experts is. So if you can just give from a high level, I know we're going to do a deep dive on each one, but what is it and what are the 2 different flavors that are available today for customers?
I love that. And I'm still on Adam's, this is a labor of love. We're doing this on our own. I'm like, it is a Sunday and this is how, like, I could have other plans, but I actually am so excited about what I do and I believe in the mission. And again, you can see I'm mission oriented.
And if you're listening to the podcast, Ray has full face of makeup on too. She showed up ready to go this morning. She was pumped and ready for the show. So very professional and very prepared as well, if you're listening and can't see.
Yeah, thank you for that shout out. Because we are built different, not to use a line from the youth from social media, but Defender Experts is Microsoft's first party MXDR offering. And that's a huge deal because so in general, Microsoft it has a wonderfully robust, comprehensive partner ecosystem. And even us as a service, we are a partner first service, and we lead with our partners in many conversations. But we as Defender Experts have been built up to be able to provide a very specific value and benefit to customers who are interested in having Microsoft, actual full-time Microsoft cybersecurity practitioners, give them peace of mind, have their back, either through specifically 24/7 proactive threat hunting across the Defender estate, or through managed response, which includes everything that hunting has to offer. But in addition, there's a dedicated service delivery manager, again, full-time Microsoft cybersecurity practitioner, like technical in focus, and an analyst that can go hands-on keyboard and act on behalf of the customer. And we play well with partners who happen to be in customer environments. Is a better together story. Many examples where either if it's for hunting or Defender Experts for XDR, where customers are happy with both of those engagements active in their environment. But we are designed to be, we are not customer support. Some folks have that misconception. And again, I've been on the other side of the equation, so I can understand where, there is that pause, and there's a level of relief when they really do connect the dots and appreciate these are full-time Microsoft employees, cybersecurity practitioners. The folks that have built this service, matured it, were the folks that matured, referred to as detection and response team DART, or our first party incident response. These are the folks that built and maintain Defender for Endpoint, right? They are now building up Defender Experts all up. And we are comprised of threat researchers. Again, so often we are at the top of the flow of threat advisory, threat intel, even internally, like our Defender Expert research teams. And so to have these hunters, these analyst service delivery managers be able to provide that peace of mind to customers. Often there's either a procurement requirement. So if there's a first party option available, they need to go first party. Folks understand if we can get Microsoft with their unparalleled access, and yes, that's a marketing line, but it is true. 78 trillion signals that we as Microsoft specifically, uniquely have access to do that cross-correlation across their Defender estate, customers are going to jump at that opportunity. And again, we do have a better together and a more stronger impact when we have partners as part of that formula. So it's all upside, to be honest.
I had a customer at our executive briefing center this last week, very Microsoft friendly customer. They are migrating to the Defender platform across the board. They have taken out the number one third party in multiple categories and have switched to Microsoft. So very friendly. Their CIO and CISO got a opportunity to sit with Brett Arsenault, our chief security advisor, former CISO of Microsoft for almost 25 years. And I got to join that conversation. So I got to sit and hear Brett spin yarns for about 90 minutes, which was just an incredible opportunity. And the things he's talking about, and I cannot share them on this show because it was an NDA conversation, but speaking to Ray's point about the threat intel we are briefed into first, the threats we see first, the knowledge we have with those 78 trillion signals is truly just staggering. And even for this customer that has bought into Microsoft, like they walked away eyes wide open after talking to Brett for 90 minutes. It was a really almost sobering experience of, wow, we think we're doing a pretty good job, but you guys are on another planet. And the other thing we got to go do is there's this place on campus called the Azure Collaboration Center. And it is, if you've seen mission control for like space shuttle launches, it makes that look like nothing. It is like this 4-story tall, floor to ceiling screens with all the Azure telemetry on them from every single region, the entire network map of one of the largest private fiber networks in the world. Again, Microsoft-friendly customer, and their jaws just hit the floor when they saw this. And like, oh yeah, we bring in red team, blue team exercises in here. We do all sorts of cybersecurity efforts using this facility as well. This facility is hardened. If there's ever a major outage, it has duplicative connectivity. It has power generation. It has everything to like keep things running. And it just hit them again like, oh my gosh, you're just the scope and scale of what you can do, we can't even compare with. And so there's that opportunity to partner with and take advantage of that scope and scale. And that's, I think, ultimately at the end of the day, what Defender Experts really brings to the table is getting to partner with Microsoft and leverage all of that capability, intelligence, people, product across the board.
So Defender Experts for hunting, Defender Experts for XDR, those are the two different flavors. And you dropped an acronym real quick, MXDR. For our listeners, managed XDR is really what it is. But there's another term in the industry, MSSP, so Managed Security Service Provider. And we don't really want to get them confused. It's kind of a good together story. But how do we, Microsoft, Ray, how do we approach that conversation of MSSP versus a first-party MXDR?
Yeah, that is an important distinction to make. When we talk about MXDR, the focus there is going to be the managed response aspect. And specifically, our scope as Defender Experts, we're not called Defender Experts for no reason. It is going to be the Defender estate, right? We have the 4 key pillars of Defender: Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, Defender for Office, and Defender for Cloud Apps. We are currently in flight for a preview of extending our scope to include Defender for Cloud, but we are Defender focused. And when we say MXDR, again, it's that response capability, and it's going to be also more proactive on the threat hunting side. When we talk about MSSP, it's going to be more inclusive. So it's going to incorporate the broader customer tenant environment. But the focus typically is on SIM management. It's not necessarily on a managed response per se. That could be part of the offering. Oftentimes, it might just be alert triaging. And that's really designed or more aligned with organizations that need to offload those responsibilities, those duties from their in-house team. But maybe they're the ones taking it kind of at the last leg of the mile, or last mile delivery there. So they'll take it home, whereas if there's an MSSP in their ecosystem, they'll field or triage that alert, and maybe the customer themselves will manage it. So you can have different flavors within MSSP, but for MXDR, specifically, the focus is going to be on that managed response. And for our scope, it is hyper specific to Defender. And for us at least, we also include Entra ID in that scope.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me, because at a previous organization, we used an MSSP and we used Sentinel actually. And largely it was what you're kind of talking about, is where we had a bunch of different alerts. They would help triage, the hundreds, maybe thousands of alerts that would come in every day. And then they would surface a couple of alerts that they thought were the ones that we should focus on. But we would then take those alerts and take that action or figure it out, like what we need to do. And so you're saying with Defender Experts, you're actually going, Microsoft, the first party, is going to actually do the triaging, whatever that alert is. You're going to maybe isolate the endpoint or disable the identity or whatever it is that requires the response for that particular attack or alert that comes up, right?
Absolutely. So again, we have the 2 offerings. There's the 2 flavors of Defender Expert. So hunting is that standalone, lightweight focus on proactive threat hunting. And anything within the Defender Expert scope is going to be 24/7. So around the clock, we have a follow the sun model. We are analyzing, monitoring customers' environments. We are investigating. And in the event that we validate a legitimate emergent threat, we are going to notify the customer. But that scope of control for remediation, that still lives within the customer's domain. Not every customer needs a more comprehensive, robust engagement from our full MXDR offering, Defender Experts for XDR. And they simply want to have the peace of mind that Microsoft is providing that threat hunting aspect. And many just consider it like a bolstering their defense in depth approach there, their security program, right? So we have that model. And then for Defender Experts for XDR, it includes everything that hunting has, in addition, and really the hero capability between the service delivery manager providing guidance around tuning, how to optimize your security posture, etc. It's analysts being hands-on keyboard, triaging medium and high sev incidents. But more than that, if the customers provide or provision the permission for Defender Experts to act on their behalf, we absolutely do that round the clock. It's not specific to business hours. It is follow the sun. So if something pops at 3 a.m., our Defender Experts analysts can isolate that machine, can disable that account. So that's a huge relief for customers that need and want that level of support.
So let's talk about more specifics. Let's talk about Defender Experts for hunting first. So when it comes to this, I know that there are some features, and I'd like to learn a little bit more. And if you can just kind of educate me and Adam and also our listeners, but how do these, when there is something that your threat hunters find, how does that get surfaced to the organization? How do they find out? Is it an email? And then also, I know looking through, and some people may be familiar, there's also a feature in the security portal called Experts on Demand. And is that something, like if I find something, can I engage? Is that something part of the service?
Absolutely. All right, let's dig into it. And so I love your question around how we alert a customer of a threat that requires minimum their attention and often remediation altogether. Everything that happens within Defender Experts, all of that activity is going to be populated in the security portal, full stop. Now, customers might have their very specific preferences. They can customize email notifications. And so we call our alerts Defender Expert notifications, or DENs, right? And this is for hunting. So again, we will identify the problem, explain the problem, and articulate what should be done about the problem. That will show up as an incident that has a very similar look and feel to an out-of-the-box product incident. And that's by design, because we want everything to have a cohesive look and feel, a user experience. But it's going to be contextualized with the hunter's actual case write-up, their notes, right? As well as advanced hunting queries. All of that lives in the portal. If a customer actually prefers to receive that through email, they can absolutely tailor that. They can configure those settings. And we have, I personally created guidance, stepwise instructions for how to establish or configure automation with Sentinel. Once you get a DEN, if you want any action to occur, when we issue a DEN, that is the highest fidelity, highest confidence. That should be prioritized. So that incident should be at the top of the list for whatever is actioned. So many of our customers, again, want to go full in on automation. And so I created that guidance for them, because they say, listen, if we get a DEN, Defender Expert notification, we know that it's serious, and we want to, at a minimum, isolate that machine until we're able to investigate it ourselves.
And when it comes to these notifications, maybe give us an example. Are we talking about they found a CVE or a new CVE, like a 0-day, or is it a configuration that they found that maybe, hey, you should turn on this setting, or you should do this, turn on MFA, or is it we found some suspicious malware running? What's a good example of the type of notifications that you might get from Defender Experts for hunting?
That is a great question. So I would say example 1 and 3. Your second example, when we think of proactive threat hunting, we are clocking, essentially tracking emergent threats, right? And this is going to be the white space between the power of the product and what needs to be funneled into the product to make it that much more effective and impactful. So if our hunters identify something that's new, something that we don't, just as a product, fundamentally don't have coverage for yet, we are going to notify customers where it's relevant for their environment. And in parallel, we're going to take that information and share that with our product engineering groups. We have established that feedback loop. So a couple of things are happening simultaneously behind the scenes. And then to your point around maybe a gap in configuration, and we're focused more on the defender experts for hunting and less on defender experts for XDR, even though it includes hunting, because with defender experts for XDR, that includes a service delivery manager. So they're going to be able to provide their perspective, consultative recommendations around here's how to tune and recalibrate your policies and configurations to harden your posture. But we're less likely to send a den just for a heads up around this is, risky behavior or this is a risky situation for you. We would only send a den if it becomes a credible threat. Sometimes we send informationals. We have a number of different incubations or pilots in flight where we are kicking the tires, experimenting with different aspects of threat advisory, right? Here's some information based on your industry or your region. Here's some threat actors operating where it might be beneficial or advantageous for your team to have eyes on these assets or just be aware of these TTPs. But that scenario is less frequent than, hey, we know of a bad actor, we've identified them, we have the feedback loop happening with product engineering. In the interim, here's what you need to do to address it, right? Because for hunting, we're not going hands-on keyboard. That scope of control remains with the customer. And to your question around experts on demand or ask a defender expert, which is that capability to actually dialogue, again, with a defender expert. We are a human-led service. We are actual human beings. We are not glorified Clippy 3.0.
Not just AI yet.
Yeah, not Copilot, just in the background.
It is very silly that I have to emphasize that, but many customers are concerned that, I get it. It's just security Copilot. It's really not. We are actual human beings. We have a whole public webinar series based around kind of legitimizing that we exist as people, as professionals. It's a knowledge share, so that's kind of to dispel the Skynet's taking over frenzy. But if any customers have questions around a defender expert notification that they received, or even an out-of-the-box product incident, or even maybe they received intel or heads up, or they saw something trending on social media and they're like, tell me more about this threat actor, or help me understand what Microsoft is doing about this situation and what we should be doing as an organization. They can have those more detail-focused conversations back and forth with a defender expert and ask for advanced hunting queries. It's basically literally experts on demand, because that is the experience that we are providing for folks.
So if I have a question, if I'm a new analyst and I have this service defender experts for hunting, you're saying I can ask an expert on what's a good query to use for this, or would I be able to maybe look at a process that's running it within an alert and say, hey, is this malicious, or what does this look like to you? Is that all kind of part of the experts on demand?
Yes, absolutely. I think anything that falls within the scope of cybersecurity incident investigation. Again, we're not customer support. So Adam used pedantic earlier. And so it is true. It's important to distinguish, right, around we're not customer support, and we have wonderful folks and experts that provide that dedicated engagement. But for defender experts, what you're getting are legit Microsoft cyber practitioners. So you want to pick their brain around. To your point, Andy, I'm trying to build this advanced hunting query to get at this particular TTP or identify this scenario happening in my environment. Am I on the right track? Can you help me? I have suspicions that this process might be malicious. Can you put eyes on this and help me validate? Many of our customers, we have a diverse population, but many of them are quite mature. Internally, they have fully stacked in-house experts, and they leverage defender experts for hunting for that experts on demand capability of just hey, from one expert to another, validate that this is my understanding of the situation. Is it accurate? And often even just that sliver of the value that we can provide is sufficient for folks to renew. That's peace of mind. Microsoft says it, we forward. And so there's just so much opportunity for knowledge share, but but also just being able to have some semblance of Microsoft has our back, right?
Absolutely. I had a customer who saw that button in there, ask an expert or whatever it's labeled in the GUI, and said, "What is this?" And so I said, "Oh, that's part of Defender Experts for Hunting. Would you like to learn more?" Absolutely, yes. And to your point on what's customer support versus what's ask an expert, there is that kind of clear dividing line between break fix, which is a thing, and that. And in this case, the customer was opening reactive support cases, which wasn't really getting them the desired result because, again, like they're trying to see, is something broken? Can I fix it? And it's, well, no, something's not broken. I need to ask a question because I'm getting this alert and I'm having a hard time investigating it. And so I want to tie this back to what we talked about last week, Andy, as well. So just to summarize, Ray, and jump in if I get anything wrong here, we have Defender Expert Notifications. You use the acronym DEN, which is beautiful. They are in line. They're in the experience for the product. They're not this separate thing. So it's built in, not bolt on, as we always like to say. It's built in the existing experience. It's something competitors do as well. Obviously, we do it better because we have more threat intelligence, more people, more signals, so on and so forth. So it's the best example of that. But last week on the show, Andy and I talked about MITRE evaluation in the most recent one. And I haven't dug into this year's most recent results, but I know in years past, you also talked about, Ray, how traditionally DENs are for above and beyond what's in the product, right? If the product's going to generate notifications based on this, if it's going to detect these behaviors, we don't need a DEN for that. It's going to be emerging threats, as you said, new or novel IOCs or TTPs that Microsoft's threat hunters are looking for, that we have just become aware of, and we're hunting across all of customers' environments. And if we get a hit, we notify the customer. That's a very high fidelity alert. So tying this back to the MITRE evaluation, in years past, and again, I haven't dug into this year's, competitors have used their equivalent to that to claim like full fidelity or full coverage across different attack methods, whereas Microsoft had it built into the product. So as Ray's talking about like that white space between what the product can do and what the threat hunters are finding, just be aware in years past in MITRE evaluations, that's been smaller because Microsoft has had better and more detections in product than any competitor where they had to rely on humans to kind of paper over those gaps. Now, I haven't looked at this year's yet, but I know in years past that's been the case too. So just want to call out, like, that's not necessarily a deficiency, like no product has 100% coverage, nor will they ever. And that's where humans still have a seat at the table, right? That's where humans are really important. And this is how you can gain access to that human ingenuity that's so valuable in cybersecurity.
Okay, so let's move to Defender Experts for XDR. So this is where we're actually taking the action for whatever is happening. And of course, as a cybersecurity professional, my first question is going to be, how do I grant access to Microsoft? Like, what kind of permissions am I going to have to grant Microsoft for that access for Defender Experts for hunting?
Great question. I wanted to just circle back on the Defender Experts for Hunting doing it better than other folks in the landscape. I would say, because we're a partner first ecosystem, when we talk about Defender Expert, specifically hunting, that's 24/7. That is Microsoft providing that. We have the unique access to those 78 trillion signals. We have many incredible, impactful MISA partners in customer environments. Customers love their MISA partners, and they love Defender Experts for Hunting because it's that overlay, right? So partners provide the hunting capabilities, but maybe it's not 24/7. Maybe it was a menu offering. I had many conversations with customers like, oh, yes, they do hunting, and we love it, and it's quarterly, and we select the hunts, etc. But we have a different model, and that's why it plays nicely, because it's not competitive for even just the customer experience. They're not pulled in different directions. We're getting that value from our VISA partner in the ecosystem. We're getting that value in it, and it's married together in a cohesive way. So I love that you brought that up, Adam. And then in terms of, Andy, your question around, how does Defender Expert for XDR get access to a tenant, be able to go hands-on keyboard? We spent many engineering cycles to make sure that that was a turnkey experience for customers. So as I mentioned earlier, our team is built different We have folks that have been Microsofties their entire career. All they know is Microsoft, which is very powerful because they have a lot of networking pull. When we
institutional
need
knowledge.
Yes, they got heavy hitters. And we also have heavy hitters that come externally, right? We got folks from NSA for more than a decade. We got folks from highly regulated industries coming in and they're like, listen, I swear we are not going to have a service where we have to provision each account, access anybody that's touching a tenant. We're not going to be part of that. So we spent many semester getting that right behind the scenes to be able to provide what we call act on behalf of, or analysts going hands on keyboard. We are leveraging what we call GDAP, and essentially the customer onboards through the portal. It is designed to be frictionless, seamless for them. And it's basically a wizard where they're going screen by screen, accepting the terms of the service. They're specifying any device groups or user groups that they want to exclude from act on behalf of, where analysts can take action, can, isolate a device, etc. And assuming that they don't want to exclude anything, they'll specify, yep. And even if they want to exclude, they'll specify, I want, after the monitoring period, I want analysts, I want Defender experts to just do whatever if they want. I want them to manage across the Defender estate, whatever capability they have to act on our behalf. I want that rocking and rolling. There is a capability or a configuration setting where customers can set it so that we are providing guided response. So we're still identifying the issue. We're explaining what needs to be done about it. Similar to hunting, the scope of control for remediation lives with the customer, again, or their partner. However, in a more elevated way or more amplified way, the customer can take those actions, can execute on that remediation guidance from within the portal itself. So just one button click. They can say, good, we got this incident, we got the remediation, and now we've completed it, all within that baked in user experience that we spent a lot of time making sure was.
Yeah. So as I think about some of the more complex organizations, global organizations, geographically separated locations, ones with maybe different device groups, like as part of the service, do you help or, start with a customer, like if they don't have anything marked in their environment, will you help scope device groups? Will you help identify priority accounts? Will you help, identify priority devices and mark those so that the response can be appropriate for those types of resources?
You said so many important things there. I want to be able to get into each one. So the scenario is basically a net new Defender customer. Is that a situation?
Yeah, maybe they have Defender deployed, but they haven't really gotten a good handle on how to separate or segment their devices in an organized way. I know that a lot of organizations that are larger and global might have analysts that only can touch certain devices, or maybe it's a large organization made up of different opcos, different operating companies, and the opcos manage their own, and the mothership doesn't want all the opcos to have access. So how does if you encounter something like that, which maybe you have, how does Defender experts for XDR kind of handle those types of situations?
Yes, no, we spent a long engineering cycle around that capability too. Customers can scope down like, hey, this is the legitimate subset of our population. This is our broader population, but we really only want Defender experts to register essentially this segment that we have carved out. And our service delivery manager can facilitate those conversations, but it again it's essentially a wizard-like experience within the portal itself. So everything was meant to be baked in native to the security portal. We want to be able to meet customers where they are at, absolutely. But we also want to make it sensible for them so they don't have to have different login areas, right? Everything gets directed and is available within the portal. I would also say in that scenario where maybe it is a net new Defender customer, because we have many of those who maybe come from a third party competitor and they want to transition, they understand and they appreciate the value from a product perspective of that holistic platform and how much more impactful they can be with product married and combined with the service, right? First party service. So in that situation, being able to help transition those customers, we've had many successful customer onboarding with partners, bringing in our partners. And so that's absolutely a space where partners add immense value. And we have essentially a sync between our service delivery manager providing the overall guidance and the recommendations and the vision of the Defender expert's journey in terms of our baselines, configurations, policies, et cetera, operating in lockstep with a partner who is working to deploy and implement on behalf of the customer.
So I know that a lot
Andy, can I jump in there real quick too?
Yeah, for sure.
I just want to say something, and this is broader than Defender experts here, so I'm zooming out for 1 second. Andy, you and I both have plenty of scar tissue working with these types of companies that are that OpCo model where you maybe have a strong shared services or you have a weak shared services, and then you have things delegated to different operating companies. Microsoft has solved data isolation between companies. It's called different tenants. Tenants have perfect data isolation between tenants. Now, I realize that creates complexity as well, but sometimes customers, I will say, want to have their cake and eat it too, where they want everything to be isolated here, but then they want everything to be shared over here. And it kind of doesn't work that way, where it's like, if you want data isolation, that's already, the engineering work's been done, that's been built. It requires different tenants. So sometimes these operating companies kind of have to make a decision, and this is much bigger than just one product, of how do you want to operate? Because if you don't want everything commingled, and I get there are tools, there are device groups, there's capabilities in Entra ID as well to do some segmentation. But if you want perfect isolation, that is different tenants. So I'll get off my soapbox on that. But again, if you're in that OpCo model and what I'm saying resonates with you, and maybe we could do a whole show about that. But it's one of those, like, the decision-making points on the different tenant architectures. We run into this all the time. And a lot of times it's the figurative putting the square peg in the round hole, where you're trying to make something that's not designed to do something, well, do it. And of course, Andy, you and I, we work together long enough, and we worked with so many customers in that model that we have the scar tissue to prove it. And we'd always see people trying to do the opposite of however they were architected. Either they were single tenant and they really should have been multi-tenant, or they were multi-tenant and should have been single tenant. So it's a tough decision to make. And it's one of those where IT leaders need to have a seat at the table when those decisions are being made. And hopefully organizations are starting to do more of that in the future. Anyhow, back to your regularly scheduled programming, but I did want to jump in there on that one point.
Yeah. So, Ray, we haven't really talked about this yet on the show, because as our listeners are listening to it, I'm sure they're thinking, well, I'm not all in on Microsoft. I only have a couple of things. I have a bunch of third-party things. What's the minimum bar to entry to even get into, this Defender experts for hunting, Defender experts for XDR? What's the minimum that they have to have? Is it just Windows, or is it something else? They have to have some sort of Defender solution deployed.
Yes, you said it. So we're called Defender experts, right? So we need at least one active and enabled Defender workload in their environment. Obviously, the more Defender workloads that are enabled in the ecosystem, the more value that the customer is going to get themselves, right? Because then the service is getting that much more telemetry. We're cross-correlating against our 78 trillion signals. And that sounds silly, but that's the reality of the situation, right? That said, we have many customers that come to us with diversified security programs, many third-party solutions in place, and they state themselves, we are kind of a hot mess and we need help, but we want to onboard to Microsoft. We want to transition. We see the value and power, again, of combining the product with the service. Can we do it today, even though we are a hot mess? And we're built differently. And so we're specifically designed to be able to provide value where the customer is today on their journey, and then help shepherd them to where they want to be. We have customers that have such a diversified environment and they're happy with. They're just like, we love hunting. Hunting's giving me that value. They have third-party competitors in their space. They're like, that's fine. They're transitioning away from that. But then they have partners. They're like, oh, we love all of this, and they're good to go. And then we have other customers that come to us maybe offhand, like maybe it's just Defender for Office enabled, right? Because being able to get in on the email security, that's where we add exponential value, being Microsoft. So folks come to us maybe with Defender for Office enabled. They want to transition to a Microsoft shop they can absolutely do that, right? So as Defender experts, we're not customer support. We're going to focus on our cybersecurity value and functionality. But as they deploy Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Identity, Defender for Cloud App, they are going to see that much more value from the service, right? Because it's really, once you turn on the service, you're turning on coverage for all, like as you enable and light up your workloads, right? So it's not per workload with the exception of what we have in preview for the Defender for Cloud, right? That's still in talks around SKU and pricing for general availability. But for the core offerings, the 4 key pillars of Defender, once you light up the service, you're off to the races, right? So many customers find such relief that they can onboard, have that peace of mind from Microsoft's like cyber folks, the Defender experts, and it's not now or never. It's okay, I'm getting this value. And now they have some breathing room to figure out, get their institutional buy-in, procurement to give them the go-ahead and roll out all the other Defender solutions. And they don't have to do anything special to see that incremental impact from Defender experts. We're just that telemetry, that signal's flowing into us, and we are going to be monitoring and investigating behind the scenes on their behalf.
Ray, you said several things I want to highlight real quick. Number one, something I'm fond of saying when I talk to customers is I say we have security from Microsoft, not just for Microsoft. And you've said it throughout the course of the conversation today, we are meeting customers where they are. And that's true across Microsoft. You'll hear us say it all the time. It's one of our favorite catchphrases, but it's true. You look at the Microsoft security offerings, they're multi-cloud, they're multi-vendor. Certainly, we recognize nobody runs a 100% homogeneous Microsoft environment, not even Microsoft ourselves. I mentioned I got to spend 90 minutes with Brett Arsenault. He's famous for saying, like, my job's to protect Microsoft, not use all the stuff. And he can talk you through all the different products he's used over the years. And yes, he has collapsed many of them down to the Microsoft platform, but not all. And so we recognize customers are going to have a heterogeneous environment. They're going to have different tools across the board, and we need to meet them there. And there's a lot of value you can get out of this, and you can get more value. And then just a callback real quick to a show we did a couple of weeks ago. We had Thomas Finney on from our Fast Track team. And we mentioned Fast Track is an included benefit with a very small number of Microsoft 365 licenses. So if you own a lot of these solutions, you can work with your Fast Track team to get them deployed and turned on. And now, even if you're using that as a second set of eyes on top of an existing solution, let's say you have an incumbent secure email gateway and you really like it. There's no harm in getting a second set of eyes on it with Defender for Office. And now all that telemetry flows into the Defender portal, and now the Defender experts team can reason over it as well. So there's a lot of value there, and certainly there's people in Microsoft who will help you get that stuff turned up, and then you can recognize the value with the Defender expert stack.
Yeah, I think a really good follow-up show, Adam, is we can talk about how Microsoft works well with third-party security solutions, like how we can be deployed side by side and then still take advantage of some of these services like Defender experts for hunting, Defender experts for XDR, because there are several of our security solutions, our security stack, that will work side by side with incumbent solutions and how that technically works. So more to come on that.
Put a pin on that. Yeah.
Yeah. What I did want to touch on quickly, Ray, is the roadmap for Defender for Cloud, because, with Defender for Cloud, Adam and I have this whole series on cloud security, and we talk a lot about how it is a vendor agnostic solution. You can onboard stuff from AWS, you can onboard stuff from, GCP. And as we move from Defender for Cloud, I don't know if there's any plans for like working with Sentinel as well, where you might onboard your firewalls, for example. What does it look like for the future of Defender experts on those fronts?
My favorite part, only because we're constantly innovating, right? For Defender for Cloud, that is slated to go GA. So that's currently in flight. It's very successful. Business conversations around pricing and SKUs. That's all stuff. But I sit in engineering. I don't know what all the goings on there. But that is slated to roll out, I believe, by the summer of 2025. And in addition to that, we have the third-party signal ingestion, which is also in flight. It's a preview experience. We're focused on populating telemetry from Zscaler, Palo Alto, as well as Fortinet. And then Meraki will be part of our second wave I believe that is also slated for general availability in summer of 2025. That is the only functionality that actually requires or has a dependency on Sentinel. We pride ourselves on being SIM independent, again, because we want to be able to meet customers where they are at. I've heard customers breathe like palpable sighs of relief. Like they ultimately want to move to Sentinel, and we would love it if everybody used Sentinel. Amazing. Or Microsoft is fantastic. They don't need to use Sentinel to onboard to the service and get that value. In terms of SIM management, that's beyond the scope of our service, our Defender experts. I will say that's where partners add immense value. So anything beyond the Defender estate, but also anything focused on the data architecture, the data ingestion, those pipelines, working with automation, building out those playbooks. Absolutely. We have many examples of partners adding that value in conjunction with the Defender experts managed response capabilities. But for that third-party signal ingestion, that's going to be more around enriching our investigations, contextualizing the attack story, shifting left of bang as soon as possible, as effectively as possible. We're not going to manage third-party solutions because unlike the feedback loop, which we've established with the Defender engineering groups, right? They hate to see us come in. They're like, oh, we got to do that. But we tell them like it is. We have no power around that third-party solution, right? Being able to affect change there. So, but bringing in that signal is so important. And so that's why we're super excited about going live with that functionality. And that's really the only one that requires Sentinel to be active and deployed.
So you're not going to provide any guidance around how to maximize the Sentinel investment. You're using Sentinel as a tool to get those third-party signals into the XDR portal where you can then kind of see a bigger picture of maybe what is happening, to use those signals as more of the story to tell of the attack, but not really the SIM management part is really completely separate, right?
Absolutely. Yep. You got it.
And I want to just ask, because you mentioned a few third-party signals in there, Zscaler, Palo Alto, Meraki's coming. The effort behind the scenes, right? Like, are you essentially skilling up people in these different areas to like understand how their product works and how from a triage, from a SOC perspective, like what are we looking for? Because obviously, like, we're good at Microsoft stuff, but now we're ingesting third-party stuff. Like, are you actually skilling people up on the back end on these third-party solutions?
Yeah, no, this is transitioning to who are the Defender experts, really. Like I said, we are built different because oftentimes, and I'm coming from external, right? Like I'm not Microsofty from cradle to grave, right? I was an Amazonian at one point. We've had folks that have been experts in those other arenas that are expanding our services to incorporate, at least from a signal perspective. So we have full on Microsofties throughout their career, and folks coming in from other organizations, the major third-party competitors, and we are building our capabilities based on customers connecting with us and sharing with us. Here's the value that we want to see, and here's the value we need to see. And again, we put pedal to the metal and make sure that we're able to provide that. Again, and that's also why we even have public-facing webinars. We've had customers ask us, hey, can we pay extra to be able to have almost like a Khan Academy experience? So we love experts on demand. Can we put that on steroids? We just want to pick the brain, right? And we're like, you don't have to pay us more money. We're going to just do a knowledge transfer. It's not going to be focused on service features or capabilities. It's going to be focused on the stuff that we've been seeing, the stuff that you should know about, and the stuff that you can take right after this session and apply when you get back to your desk or when you log back on for the day. So we grow and evolve based on our customer feedback.
And of course, some of our listeners, if they've been following with the show, know that I've moved to the federal segment of Microsoft. And so obviously, a little selfishly, I'm wondering what is the outlook for Defender experts for our government customers, for our state and local customers, maybe federal government? Like, where are we in that journey to maybe take advantage of this?
Yeah, GCC for sure. outlook is looking good. We are positive. We are optimistic. I'm hopeful sometime in 2025, we have FedRAMP certification on our roadmap, and we are working towards that. It's an incredibly exciting time. We recently had our second episode of our Defender Experts public webinar, and we had many folks from GCC, government tenants, participate in attendance for that session. And again, I was just personally fascinated because I would think, given everything that's happening in the world, maybe they would focus their energies in other arenas. Nope, they were plugged in and they were excited and engaged. And so that, as I was sharing earlier before we kicked off the show, I found that government and then healthcare, we are an industrious group. We are quite resourceful, and we will figure out, it's one thing to have that service engagement, but it's just to learn. That's really part of our mission as well, just to be able to educate and equip the community with all of the insights that they should be mindful of and keep top of mind in their day-to-day.
Perfect. So one last question before we go, and I know we've kept you a little long, so appreciate you hanging with us here. You've mentioned throughout the conversation on partners, just want to kind of close the loop there. Microsoft has a long history of scaling through partners, being such an organization that touches customers across the globe and in every corner of the planet. You really need partners to help every customer and to scale across the board. And so we've had some great MXDR customer partners over the years that we work really closely with, but also, being competitive in the space, there were competitors who had first-party solutions that went hand in glove with their endpoint protection platform. They also offered first-party managed services. So, I would just love to kind of hear your overall story on where we work well with partners and kind of our story on why we built Defender Experts, and just to kind of close us out and take us home here. Just hear you spinning yarn about partners a little bit and the story there.
Yeah, it's very, no, my mom's the crocheter. Do a mean lanyard. For partners, again, as I mentioned, we have several examples of MISA partners adding immense value with the Defender Experts for hunting, as well as Defender Experts for XDR with our customer population as of today. And we are working to grow that, amplify that in a more official, formal capacity. We're working on co-branded assets. We're working on potentially having collaborative, those learning sessions or those empowerment knowledge transfers in the form of our webinars. And so when we think of the inception of Defender Experts, we are designed to provide value to customers specifically who want a first-party offering, who want Microsoft to have their back, provide that peace of mind. But many of our customers need it, again, for procurement requirements. So it's if they're using the Defender stack per the whatever technology solution they have within their environment, if there's a first-party service option, they need to make that transition, and first party is incredibly important to them, right? And so it's quite niche, that segment that we are kind of hyper focused on. And then when we take a couple steps back, we zoom out, having that layer again with just even one Defender workload enabled. I personally worked with a customer that literally came to us, very diversified environment. They are working to rationalize, optimize. But even with one Defender workload enabled, they renewed the search. Like, listen, hunting's amazing. Hunting has saved our butt. They are happy with MISA, their MISA partner. Like, love them. They're doing amazing things. And hunting, Defender Experts for hunting, like, thank goodness. I've received personal pings from their security director. Like, thank you. Thank you for reaching out to us, right? And so we are able to provide value in a way that highlights and augments the pre-existing value that customers are getting with their partners. And we're looking to formalize our again, I'm not in sales, but we're looking to
I am.
have something a little bit more concrete with regards to our collaboration models. So we have them happening in real time, but we don't necessarily have those marketing glossy, co-branded Defender Experts plus MISA partner, et cetera. And we're looking to have that available sometime soon, because customers are like, we get it conceptually, but the customer, and I've been a customer, I've been on the other side of the equation. It's always nice to have like an artifact. It's always nice to have something to help drive the business conversation that they will inevitably need to have with the folks that are writing the justification for the security program decisions. So more to come there, but we have evolved immensely since our very humble beginnings.
And MISA, by the way, for those not familiar, is the Microsoft Intelligence Security Association. So that's how we partner with the broader industry. And you'd be surprised who are some MISA members out there, because some of them you may say, isn't that just a peer competitor? But as we're fond of saying, cybersecurity is a team sport, and we need everybody all in the boat, rowing the boat in the same direction to be successful. And then, one final thought that occurred to me while you were walking through that, and I'm coming up on my 8th anniversary. It will be on Thursday, actually, at Microsoft. When we talk about security as a platform, and we've seen customers finally kind of start to align to this vision that we've been talking about for many years, that really the best way to do cybersecurity is as a holistic platform where everything is built together and pre-integrated. First-party services are the natural extension of that. If you believe in that vision and you believe that it's more powerful to have everything built together and engineered together, and everything you just talked about with the engineering feedback loop back to the product groups, and with being engineered to fit in seamlessly in the platform, in the portal, so that the Defender Expert notifications are right there in line with all the other notifications. Like, all of that extends that story of here's why a platform is so powerful. So it just makes sense to it was the logical next step in the progression of building a cybersecurity platform. Andy, I'll let you take us home.
Yeah. So one last thing, and if our listeners have stuck with us this far, Microsoft, Adam and I have mentioned this on the show. There, as we talk about this proactive stuff, this is really like the proactive part of the hunting, and then the service, the XDR part of it. But there is another offering, and I don't know if this is part of the Defender Experts, but I just wanted to mention it, which is Microsoft does have another offering. In the industry, oftentimes, maybe you don't need all of this and you just want help when there's a full-blown incident. We have something called a incident response retainer, and that's when like something bad is happening and you need to call the bat phone and phone for help. There's a whole nother service that is involved in that. I don't know if that's part of your team, Ray, but it's available for like unified customers, and essentially like a proactive block of hours that you can buy that essentially it's a help when you need it, right?
Yeah, no, it's beautiful. Thank you for mentioning that. So incident response, formerly known as detection and response, DART, that is distinct from Defender Experts. Again, if it's across the Defender estate, we've got you covered. If, as an example, you have a diversified environment, not everything's onboarded to our agents, and we can't go hands on keyboard. You need boots on the ground. You need that forensics capability throughout that engagement. You're going to need incident response. And so that is separate from our group. However, we have established standard operating procedures, or SOPs, with incident response, aka DART, because many of our Defender Experts built up DART or incident response, and they came over to have more work-life harmony there. Because so instead of like a 48-hour workday, it's like we have a follow the sun model, and we have a geographically distributed team. But if you need boots on the ground, Microsoft's got you covered, and we have those flows established where if somebody needs to onboard to incident response, they can come seamlessly to us as Defender Experts for that 24/7 managed XDR across domain signals across their Defender estate.
As we call it, a warm handoff.
So this has been amazing, talking about Defender Experts, and really like across the board, we got you covered. If you're looking for a first party, either just threat hunting, proactive stuff, managed response, or, in the emergency, you need DART, you need the incident response. We also have that. So, Ray, thank you so much for taking time out of your Sunday to come on our show and talk about this. This has been wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you for the opportunity, Andy and Adam. As you mentioned before, I am actually quite passionate about the mission. I know the humans behind the human-led service. That's why my enthusiasm is genuine and palpable. I know how serious they are about it. I know how excited they are when they get to participate in the public webinars. They are thought leaders on their own time within the cyber industry. They care so much about protecting the world from bad actors, from threats, more than focused on maintaining livelihoods. It's lives. They want to focus on protecting lives and being able to empower and equip those to be as effective, even if they don't wear necessarily the specific hat of a cyber practitioner. So we are a committed bunch. We're passionate. We're built different, and we couldn't do it without our partners. And we love that. And we're looking to evolve it. So hopefully we can return to the show. Maybe we'll have a partner too. You can have me and a partner. We can talk about how we collaborate. That might be a good episode.
Absolutely. So we'll have some links in the show notes on the service itself and Ray's contact information if you want to reach out. But that's our show for this week. Thanks for watching as always. Thanks for listening. If you have any questions, Adam and my contact information will be in the show notes. Or if you have suggestions on future shows and stuff you want to learn about, just email us. Thanks. We'll talk to you guys next week.
Thank you for listening to the Blue Security Podcast. Please check out the show notes, catch up on episodes you may have missed, and subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes. Find Andy on Twitter @AJaw0 and Adam @AJ Brewer. See you at our next episode.